I'm always amazed at the resilience of plants and how they really try to perpetuate themselves, even when you put them in not so great of conditions. Whether you're beating up your tomato plants when they're seedlings, leaving them too long in pots, too far away from the light, old potatoes that get left in a bucket in the garage over winter will put out new sprouts even as they start to rot. And you know, all kinds of things like that I find amazing, that the plants will find a way despite what we do in one way or another. Hey everybody, welcome back to One Seed, One World. I'm Todd and I am here in Western Maryland in Zone 7A. If you haven't been here before, welcome and thanks for hanging out with me today. Please hit the like button, the subscribe button, put some comments below what's going on in your garden, all those kinds of things. While it seems pretty minimal, actually really helps the channel grow more, gets the YouTube algorithm going out there when you do those kinds of things. So that would be much appreciated. Anyway, today is planting day for me, at least with a lot of my seeds. I'm going to get going out here in the garden after a fairly up and down week last week. It was nice during the day in the 60s, but we had 3 nights with frost. But looking at the 2-week forecast, it looks like we are done. Today is supposed to be about 86 degrees. It was like 50 some degrees yesterday and rainy and chilly, windy, or breezy. But today we are going to hit the 80s and going to be in the 80s all week with 60s at night. And then next week, low to mid 70s every day and mid 50s at night, Fahrenheit. So that is perfect for getting seeds going. I haven't hardened off my tomato plants and pepper plants yet, so I'll be doing that. All the and the flowers and stuff that I started in the basement on my previous videos this year. They will I will start hardening them off today and do that throughout this week. And then next weekend, I will be doing a transplanting probably video of moving all that stuff outside. But today is seeds. I'm going to start off with my scarlet runner bean seeds, which I do every year, and I always show these beans off because they're so pretty. All the purple, I don't know how it comes up in this light, but the lavender and black colors, they're very tasty. We use these instead of kidney beans a lot of times when we do like ham and bean soup and chilies and stuff. They're a nice creamy big bean. So for planting beans, I know a lot of people will, you okay over there? Dog having a little coughing fit. A lot of people will soak their beans like overnight before they will plant them. It can help soften up the outer coating of the bean, so that it gives a better chance for your roots and cotyledons to pop out. Cotyledons are the first 2 little leaves that show up before they get their true sets of leaves. That's the next set that then comes up after that. But I've never soaked my beans. I know some people will even get them sprouting inside and put them out, and that will probably get your garden going faster. But generally, what I've found with the scarlet runners, green beans, things like that, normally within a week or less, as long as conditions are right, they do sprout without any issue. So, and these are beans that I've been saving every year since I've been planting these. I haven't bought scarlet runner beans in several years because you get plenty that are dry that come off, and then you can just plant them. I have to get a couple things set up over here though, because I moved one of the hoops that I'm planting them on, and it still needs to be kind of adjusted a little bit and strapped up. So let's show you that. Okay, so it doesn't look like much yet, but once the beans fill in this hoop, I don't know, does the top come up? I guess you can't see the top very well on the camera, but the beans will fill up both sides of this hoop and make a nice green walkway to go under with orange blossoms that come out throughout the year. This used to be farther up the path, but it kind of got in the way of things where it was, so I decided to move it down here as more of an entrance piece to the garden with good old St. Francis here, and our sad awapui plants that have been sitting in the basement all winter and aren't doing so well. But we'll see if we can get them to revive and maybe even flower this year. This is the plant, I think it's originally from Hawaii, the shampoo plant it's also called, because you can make shampoo out of the flowers or something. I don't know. It needs more research for me. Anyway, so I just have a couple of tea stakes on each side, and then I set this bend. This is a 16-foot cattle panel. It's just bent over in here, and I need to get it adjusted so it's not so wonky right now. I think this side's gonna have to be a little bit higher because this side of the path is a little bit lower. So let's see if we can't get this to set up on here for me. I need to take a look and see how that comes out. It's not too bad. This side has got a little bit more bend to it. Now, really a lot of this doesn't matter, because once it gets all filled in with all the vines and leaves and everything, you won't be able to really tell anyway. It's just going to be a big mass of green and orange blossoms. But I get these heavy duty zip ties, 100 in a pack. It's like 10 bucks for them at the local farm store. And this is what I use to strap all of my hoops up, because I've got these all around. I've got 4 more back, actually 5 more back there, 1 over there, and I grow different types of beans. Sometimes I've grown butternut squash over them, Kajari melons, those kinds of things. If you've seen my old videos from I don't know, like 3 years ago or so, I had different things growing on there. Anyway, enough yapping, right? Get to work. So this is the side I think I want to strap on first, because that's why it's going to go sideways on me. Can't hardly see the camera, it's so bright out here. Just like an hour ago, it was foggy and cloudy and perfect for videoing. Then of course I took too long to come out, and as soon as I get out here to start taking video, the sun breaks through and the heat's picking up. So hopefully you guys can see this okay, but as I'm dropping stuff here, I'm having a problem. And it might not be necessary, but I'll normally put like 2 on each side, sometimes 3, depending on how the cattle panel is sitting on here, or what I'm growing on it, just to make sure it's got enough support. I'll tell you what, it's already getting hot out here. I should have been out here way earlier this morning. Plus I'm fumbling around with the camera a lot, trying to get different shots, which probably most of them won't work because I can't see what I'm doing because it's so bright out here right now. So anyway, planting beans in general, probably put them about 1/4 to 1/2 inch down, depending on the size of the bean. Now these Scarlet Runner beans are bigger beans, so they can probably go about 1/2 inch down. I need to get my homie tool out here instead of doing this with my hands, but we'll start off this way for right now. I just moved the dirt from when I moved the beds down. I just brought the dirt with it. But just to kind of refresh a little bit, I added some of that Happy Frog soil in here to top it off, because they were getting a little low from not topping them off the last couple of years. And you know, these should be pretty good though, because they had beans grown in them before. So beans are nitrogen fixers to the soil, and so they should be good. Now, I mean, you don't want too much nitrogen in your soil, because then you're going to end up with more leaves than fruit. Nitrogen is what helps your plants get green and fluffy. And so if you've got an overabundance of nitrogen, you're going to get a lot more foliage on your plants than you will like beans or tomatoes or whatever you might be growing. So you want that balance. But you know, most soils are pretty balanced. Now, if you have a nitrogen deficiency, one thing you might see is some of your leaves yellowing. Although, I mean, leaves yellow for a lot of different reasons. There's different diseases, underwatering, overwatering. There's all kinds of things. Yellow is normally, you know, not enough light. But nitrogen, lack of nitrogen can also cause that. But don't panic if your leaves start turning yellow. It doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have enough nitrogen in there. Anyway, so for these beans, I don't know how many I put. I kind of space them out a little bit. They really put off the vines, so you don't need them like really close together because they will fill this whole thing out as they grow. You know, by July we'll have ourselves a full hoop here. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 beans in a 8-foot long box, and this box is only a foot wide. They don't need a whole lot of room for root growth. They'll put a tap root down and then they'll spread out a little bit from there. But you know, you don't need a massive wide bed for beans, a foot wide. This is probably about 10 or 12 inches deep and then 4 feet long. All right, so we got those in there. When I'm all done planting, I will water this stuff all in, but for right now, we'll just cover it over and wait for this stuff to grow. So last year I had these blue potatoes that I grew. I forget the exact variety. I'll look it up and I'll put it down along the bottom of the screen here. But there was some that was starting to get a little soft and stuff at the end of the year. We decided we didn't want to eat those. So we just put them in a bucket, and for a while they sat in the basement. And then when we were cleaning stuff up, went and put them out in the garage, and there they sat all winter. And it gets really cold out in the garage in the winter. I mean, because it's a detached garage, and I mean, you know, it gets, whatever it's outside, it's pretty much, you know, if we're 5 degrees outside, it's probably 5 degrees in the garage. So these sat out in the bucket, and I went and pulled them out today because I don't have any seed potatoes, but I figured I'd try to use these. Now, some of them did get pretty rotten. Like, I'm not going to use that. Or this soggy one over here, already attracting flies. We'll throw those out in the compost. But some, ooh, and they're really starting to stink. But some of them are looking pretty decent, and they're all putting off the little sprouts. And so we're going to put these in and see how they do. I mean, this one's got tons of stuff that has sprouted on it. So I'm just going to shove these in here. I also have some yellow potatoes left over from last year that are kind of doing the same thing, that were out in the garage as well. So this is my first year also of planting the potatoes in a raised bed. Normally I just stick them in the ground, or the one year I did them in bags. But last year I did have one potato that I got stuck out in one of the beds like the previous winter, and it ended up growing, and I left it. It was kind of mixed in amongst my spinach, but I left it there and got 9 pounds of potatoes off of it last year. So the potatoes seemed to really like the raised beds, the soft soil, and they got more room to grow and less chance of weeds getting in there to choke them out. So we're gonna see how these do, and maybe we'll get a nice big harvest later on this summer. So we'll see what happens though, because these are in pretty sad shape. But even the ones that I planted last year were in pretty sad shape, and they all grew. So we'll put some of these in here. I'm probably planting them too close together, but I want to get them used up. So I'm going to make a couple more rows and finish filling in this area. And we'll see what happens. So this bed here, at least this end of it, up here I've got onions. Down here I'm going to put some zucchini, maybe a yellow squash. All this that you see on top here is rabbit litter and rabbit poop that I put in here over the winter, and it's kind of broken down, but I'm going to turn it over now. Squash, and zucchini. Well, zucchini is squash, sorry. But any of your squashes, there's a grub. Let's save that for the chickens. Any of your squashes are going to be heavy feeders, you know, and so when you're picking a place to put your squash, make sure that, you know, you've had some fertilizer, some compost in there, something to feed off of it. I had spinach in this area and Swiss chard last year, so those aren't heavy feeders really, but that's why on this end of the bed, because I knew I was going to put squash in here over the winter, I put the rabbit litter, and that can give it some more fertilizer to break down in. Rabbit litter, of course we don't have Buford anymore, but we still have his leftover rabbit poop and stuff that I saved in a barrel. That stuff is fantastic for fertilizing your garden. It's a cold compost. You don't have to compost it first. You can put it directly on your soil. Don't have to worry about burning the plants. It contains all kinds of trace nutrients that your plants need, manganese, magnesium, phosphorus, nitrogen, calcium, and then some vitamins and stuff too. And so it's pretty fantastic to use, and I've been using it, you know, all 7 years that we had Buford. So, and you know, we had enough to last me another season. Going forward, of course, not having the rabbit, we won't have it in the future, but I'm happy to have it this year. You know, I was talking about that potato that grew up in the middle of my spinach. Well, that was right here, and I've got more potatoes coming up here. I'm going to dig them out though, and a spinach that had popped up over the winter actually. And so this, what I've been doing is popping off leaves off the spinach every so often and feeding that to the chickens. So I'm going to dig that out of here now too, since this will be the squash place. And I've got more spinach growing anyway already, so this one will be their final snack off of this plant. I wonder if there's any potatoes in there. Another grub. And I got some little tiny ones that were starting to pop off from this plant, little red potatoes. Trying to make a comeback. We'll get rid of those though. Not much of a meal out of these. Oh, I'm dropping them. Sorry, spinach. You're gonna go be snack food. All right, so both of my grubs apparently made a run for it. Ah, here they are. All right, we're gonna go feed these to the chickens. Trying a little bit. Oh, now it's gonna reach over your head and take it. Come right here. Can you get it? Get that. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I have these old leftover fence rails or balusters from when I built the deck, and I'm going to try staking my zucchini this year. I've seen some things where it can help with squash vine borers. And we'll see how this all works. Although these stakes aren't very tall, so I don't know if it's going to do a whole lot, but we'll try it, and you can follow along throughout the season and see what happens with it and if it works or not. I'm putting the stakes in first though, because I just want to plant the seeds next to them instead of trying to get the stakes in after the plant gets established, because then if you're driving a stake into the ground next to your plant, you have a potential of damaging your roots. And squash, especially, squash and cucumbers are very particular about having their roots moved or damaged. And so if you've got a young plant that's just starting to come up and then you jam a stake down in and cut off some of the roots, that could severely harm your plant for the rest of the season. So that's why I'm putting these in first. Not a whole lot to it. Hopefully they'll be strong enough or steady enough in there to hold up a zucchini plant. But like I said, they're not very tall, but we'll see what happens. So I'm growing Ford hook zucchini. This was I have some Black Beauty too, but this was an open package that I had left over from 2022. So we're gonna see how they do. And I'm just gonna put 2 seeds per hill, cover those over, and move on to the next one. Oh man, it is getting steamy out here. Hopefully you can see me okay sitting here in the shade. But anyway, I'm not going to show you everything that I'm doing today. I just wanted to hit a couple of those points, show you that I was getting into the planting, talk about the beans, the potatoes, and putting the squash in. One thing I did not mention when I was planting the squash, you might have noticed I kind of spaced them out weirdly. That's because I also added into that, not shown on camera, I put in randomly throughout that whole squash area nasturtium seeds, dill, and cilantro. Just kind of throw it in there. Supposedly the nasturtiums are supposed to help repel squash bugs, or confuse them at least. The smell of the nasturtiums supposedly can help with that, like a good intermixing. Now, I've read from people they didn't have the greatest results. Some people said it worked some for them, others didn't really notice a difference, but figured I'd try it along with the staking. And then also dill, once it flowers, it brings in parasitic wasps that like to feed on larvae of the different bad bugs that we get here. And then cilantro. I just figured I'd throw in a couple of different herbs and edible flowers for some beauty and to kind of fill in that area and maybe help repel some squash vine borers and squash bugs. So we'll see how that works. But that was kind of to show you what's going on today with the planting. It is definitely getting hot out here and I still have a ton more to do. Plus we have to run a couple errands later on, and it's just a full day. So I wanted to stop dragging the camera around and get into planting more things. But I'm putting in some beet seeds, even though I've got some beet seedlings going on, some more squash, melons, different herbs. I don't remember what all I brought out here. Green beans, purple beans, those kinds of things are all gone in. But we'll follow up again like next weekend when I'm doing the transplanting of the tomatoes and peppers and see maybe by then some things will have sprouted and then we can do a follow-up then. But let me know what's going on with your gardens. Put some comments below, and I appreciate that you're here hanging out with me again today. But we will see you all again soon. Have a great day. Namaste.